Okay, good morning. Biggest energy that I'm getting today is it's as if somebody is asleep inside a house, and I'm seeing the intro, not the intro, the beginning moments of the first pilot episode of the show Schitt's Creek, when the government has come in to repossess all their items, and Moira is having a meltdown and getting her wigs, and it's like the bed that the person in the house is sleeping on, people are coming in and carrying it out. Then he goes to sit down in a chair. People go in and carry the chair out. He's like, where am I supposed to sit? And all of the pieces of furniture represent different things that are self-imposed, self-limiting beliefs that function as elements of comfort and support that keep us moving energetically in the same space and the same ways. The Tower. Exactly. I already shuffled, by the way, cut the deck 3 times, and now I'm just pulling cards from the top because this is a quicker reading. So the Tower is like lightning strikes and things are crumbling. 9 of Wands. Stubbornness and defensiveness around change. 8 of Cups. The universe will act for you if you don't act on your own volition. And I think that things are shifting right now. 4 of Swords. Around a need to go within and heal. At the bottom of the deck is Temperance for patience. And cut the deck. Page of Pentacles. Okay, I think that there's a lot more to focus on that might be going negatively than there is to look at how there could be new beginnings. Like, he is having all his furniture get taken out of the house, but he doesn't know where else he can go, which is why it's so incredibly disruptive. Things might feel out of our control right now. Cut the deck again. 5 of Cups. Things are feeling out of control and unstable. King of Swords. But we have the ability to move through it. Can you clarify? King of Swords. It's the Star and the Ace of Pentacles. It just requires a mindset adjustment, which is really hard because in free fall, he's not going to be able to be like, maybe this isn't so bad. In free fall, he's going to be feeling the wind and the force of gravity acting upon his body. He's not able to have a mindset adjustment when it's an emergency. There's almost an emergency state of rapid shifts happening that are inducing a state or a need for deep healing and a migration of the emotional self to relate. See, he's been here for a while in a defensive or a stubbornness, and I'm seeing that as a fundamental unwillingness for us in the collective energies to change certain things for a long time. And I think a lot of it has to do with the things that we've done the longest but needed the least, or maybe we needed certain habits and ways of being at different points in our lives and we don't need them anymore. We have the King of Swords, the Star, and the Ace of Pentacles, so it's like, and a clarifier from the top of the deck, the 10 of Swords. It's the end of that chapter. I said for longer than we've needed to. These things in our lives, we've had them for longer than we've needed to, whatever they are. Habits, distractions from true wish fulfillment with the Star, the things that we want. There's an ability to kind of take a, I'm seeing a, I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. I'm seeing like a backdrop on a theater stage, and it's just a piece of cloth, and there's a big light behind it. Somebody's taking scissors and cutting right up the middle of it, and the light is shining through. It's like there has been this barrier and we've used it as this backdrop for different scenes and stages of our life, but it's been this constant background or backdrop. Oh, he has the sword that can cut through it. He has the sword that can cut through it, and the light that shines through is wish fulfillment, and it feels too overwhelming it's like this cycle state of being rocked by events and needing to respond to the events in our life as they arise. Excuse me. And then needing to heal and rest from that. Both of these cards are, the Eight of Cups is an inactivity. It's not inactivity. It's kind of this sad journey. Like, I'm seeing the guy again with all the furniture being taken out of the house. He wouldn't really have an option. He could sleep on the floor, but then they're saying we're like repossessing this, and so he needs to go. And who is they? The kind yet stern hand of the universe. I'm surprised the Wheel of Fortune isn't here. This stubbornness, you can't, even if you don't want the government to come in and take all your furniture, if there's a warrant for that, then it's going to happen, whether you like it or not, whether you ask them to stop or not. And then he's set out on a new journey, and the journey is one of solitude. So these cycles are breaking within us. Temperance is here. There's enough universal energy to be able to cultivate hope in the things that we want, but it's not going to be something that we've had to do before or that we've seen before. So it might feel Ten of Swords and Ace of Pentacles. Clarification for the major arcanas that are out. The Tower, Temperance, and the Star. It might feel foreign. It feels like we don't have enough time to create these new beginnings. Judgment is here though. So it's like a divine judgment on why we've done things the way that we've done them. You cannot really hide from your own decisions when your life, everything in your life all around you is the physical manifestation of your decisions. There's a lot of things that happen outside of our control, but how we react to those things is ultimately what we end up living with, right? Our contributions. So the clarification for the major arcanas that I asked for is this absolute ultimate stability, the Queen of Pentacles and the Nine of Pentacles. And I'm almost seeing like, because this backdrop with the light behind it, we're cutting through it, or it's a combination of things cutting through it, kind of the inevitable. The light is streaming through, and there's an ability to not get carried away within that change and that shift. In some ways, being able to move slowly, as long as we don't do so reluctantly. I think a lot of these things are coming out of the shadow of the ego and the subconscious, things that we haven't necessarily acknowledged in full, things that we haven't necessarily been able to see as, sometimes again, we like to say like, I'm changing my ways, but not like that. I'm doing things differently, but I'm gonna keep doing that. And that's not necessarily enough in some cases. So the Nine of Pentacles, the Queen of Pentacles, and the Ace of Pentacles makes me think again about the analogy I used a while ago with the car, and there's this wall of fog, and just on the other side there's this space of a new way of being, a new way of doing. There's sunshine, there's a yard, you can have a picnic. And there's this unwillingness to drive through the fog because there's gonna be, temporary lack of visibility. And that creates uncertainty and fear because there's less control throughout the transition. But what we fail to realize is that we're not in control at this time anyway, because of the judgment that's being served by the universe for different things. It's not that the universe is like, you've done wrong, you're being punished. No, it's just saying like, if you're not going to realize that there's a new way to do things for yourself in order for your soul to grow and for you to be more happy and fulfilled, then we'll show you. We'll take your hand and, you know, we'll drag you out of the house, out of the bed. The furniture's leaving anyway, these coping mechanisms, these unhealthy vices. You know, if you were to stay and cry in the house until every last piece of furniture was dragged out, he'd still end up leaving at some point. He's just wallowed in the painful separation of the old life crumbling behind him, instead of having kind of the integrity to pick himself up and walk out on his own. And in doing so, being able to maintain, I'm seeing an element of this card. There's a stubbornness here, but it can be employed for the right things. You can be steadfastly, stubbornly stuck and set on the ability to grow new things and work towards something new that's based off of a vision or a dream that comes from the inside. And I'm getting again from my reading the other day that this has to do with alignment, and alignment has to do with the quality of the soul, and the soul has to do with integrated, healed things from the past coming back to be resolved, things that we never fully, you know, integrated. We're operating under these protective mechanisms based on past wounding. Wow, a lot came out. Okay, so full, complete integration, like I just said, the sun and the moon, the masculine and the feminine. It takes this kind of accountability and responsibility. Like I'm actually seeing a family structure, conventional, heteronormative family structure of a husband, a wife, and children. And this kind of super traditional, somewhat outdated, like thing where if anything were to go wrong with the family, the husband would take responsibility for all of it. And I know this is just an example. And feel a sense of responsibility, like he let everybody down or something. And this is kind of what I think there's this merging right now of like, yeah, you do have to kind of take responsibility. It's not about letting people down or not. It's that you're the one that you will let down if you don't act in a way that you can be proud of, that the, you know, the husband, the King of Swords, that his wife would be proud of, that his kids would be proud of. Nobody's necessarily watching you, you know, in life. Of course, you're connected with people and you talk about what's going on in your life, but integrity is all about what you do when people aren't watching, how you think about yourself, how you think about others. So just metaphorically making that structure proud, because the masculine energy is trying to heal itself and demonstrate that it can handle responsibility, basically, in life from the universe. Because the universe, as I've said with abundance before, wants to channel through abundance to people who are going to create the right stewardship of these resources. There's a spiritual foundation to what can be done with sharing and expressing the integrated version of the soul creatively, materially. All the pentacles here, it's a material start, but it's because it's the outward manifestation of the true quality of the soul that doesn't have any of this baggage from the past thwarting it. So I see it as like to get to the brightest moments of the sun, you have to go to the darkest shadows. And I'm thinking about like a thermal map, like in the deeper part of the oceans, it's colder. In the darker part of the shadows, there's you know, a cooler feeling to that. And then the closer you get to the sun, the hotter it gets. So these extremes, which it feels like it's this other kind of, so on the water park ride again in the log, it becomes this steep incline all of a sudden, you know, there's this transit happening right now where, yeah, I haven't even gotten to these cards, but I will. We have the ability to level up in a big way. If it's starting to go up, right? I talked about packing a knapsack metaphorically yesterday. The energy felt like, you know, taking more rations for a journey to be able to sustain ourselves. This is that journey of being able to allow, you know, the brightest light in by going to the darkest things that we've failed to acknowledge or fully release, and balance those things out. And you end up at this true neutral where if you have to admit some things to yourself, it's only so that you can be free finally. And then after that, the tower crumbles. It is the fool's journey again. And the fool is naive. The fool is innocent. The fool hasn't been saddled with life experience that holds the fool back, because the fool is that forward moving energy. And the fool isn't here, but what is here is 2 pages. So creating new beginnings and passionate new ideas that can bring you forward through those new beginnings on your own. Ace of Swords. Perhaps it requires, you know, a little bit of, okay, there's, what I'm getting off of this is that there's this perceived idea that you have to separate yourself from the people in your life. If you see on this card, he's sitting there, chin in hand, the swords. It's almost like the figures in the background of the card are doing something without him and he's left out. But he has these tools that are capable of carving the land. It's almost like a selfish thing. Perhaps it feels selfish to remove ourselves from certain circles or ways of being, or there's this perceived, there's no wiggle room in certain things for us to extract ourselves from the way that things have been done. But it doesn't mean turning your back on everything. Sometimes in order to create a new beginning and slice through the fabric and let the light in, it doesn't mean that you're going to be walking away from absolutely everything. It might mean that you're showing up differently with the people that you interact with, showing up differently in the spaces that you do frequent, physically, you know, mentally, literally. But you have to do that with a lot of honesty, because a lot of the things that we've been frequenting, people, places, ways of being, thought patterns, are unhealthy. Devil energy. I cut the deck and I have the Hanged Man. So it's continuing. No matter how many times you change the way you see things, there's always going to be an additional vantage point to go explore that will continue to round out the faceted complexity of why things are the way they are. You can never sort it out. You can never get it done. But when the Devil energy is here, when the 5 of Swords is here, when the 10 of Swords is here, when all of these really, it's like this boat, it's like this arc, it's like the flood is already happening and there's this ability to sail smoothly out of it. It doesn't mean that things aren't dire, but it means that things have been wanting to change for some time. Yeah. So that things can balance out in a state of harmony, in a state of peace, in a state of ultimate fulfillment. And it's a beginning that we have to forge with our own abilities. But the universe is saying it's the right time to do that. It's been the right time to do that. And what I was saying the other evening, even if you shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you land among the stars. You know, a lot of people don't like cliches because they're just kind of lofty and poetic. And I do think that there's this fear around the unknown with, we don't even know how to end certain things and begin certain things because we can't even conceive of what it might look like, of how that's going to function within our actual practical lives. Just a few steps forward will start to yield how that can be true. Maybe you need to separate yourself for a little bit and actually be a little bit selfish in order to think about that. But I mean, the major arcana here are undeniable. There's a certain amount of divine timing that we don't necessarily understand as well. It's like the things that are happening seem to be on their own timetable, whether or not it's like when we start to say, okay, I get what's happening. I'm going to step up. I'm going to partake in the changes in my life so that I'm in control. The universe says, you can't be in control. So you need to not look at it that way, because every time you seek that control, when you're going through the changes, the universe will throw you another tower and say, you're not meant to be in control right now. Precisely the opposite is what you're being taught and what you need to start to become comfortable with. I'm getting, again, become comfortable when you're uncomfortable. I'm seeing military recruits at like ROTC or something. I don't know if that's military, but like a boot camp, the young, the willing, they just kind of, do what they're told. There's this submissiveness and they become strong. They become soldiers. They have to go through these things. And he doesn't have to go through those boot camp exercises because he has this power and this authority, but we're turning over that kind of rigid, stubborn power and authority for a new way of being. You have to go somewhere else with a fresh perspective in order to create. Nine of Pentacles is pre-Empress energy. That is the Empress. It's just, remember when I said in a reading a few days ago, the Empress, right before she was sitting in that place of pure abundance and luxury, she wasn't grappling with the things that hold her back and severely desperate and not able to control anything and at the mercy of all this toppling down structure in her life. No, she was tilling the garden outside, and then she went, in to sit on the throne. You have to pave the way towards your ultimate stability with a willingness to go where you're led and go where things take you as they're removed from your life, trying not to start to say, I see where this is going, I know where this is going, and I no longer need to trust and have faith. Because that is when the devil energy comes back in. It's so hard to let go of the devil energy because we're human. So we think that we've put something down and that that's something that it merits or it deserves recognition and reward and credit, but then we try to pick back up that element of control within something else. So that it's like the devil, they say this, right? And you can see this in the world today. The devil is sneaky because it presents itself in hidden forms. A very good enemy acting against a group of people will stay very camouflaged so that they don't even know that they're fighting it. And I think that the devil energy has the tendency to pop up like that throughout cycles like this, because it's saying, are you sure you don't want my help? Are you sure that you can do this on your own? Are you sure that there's going to be stability on the other side? And it says, no, you're going to fall again. You can't do things differently. You need my help, right? The devil's a very seductive energy, but it's a bad cycle. It's up and down and up and down. You try to control things, they don't work out. You try to control things, they don't work out. It's not balanced. It's never going to lead to balance and stability, because that's the whole dynamic. So within those moments, what you're actually trying to do is come into the stability. But the door on the wall, it's marked exit. Open this door and go through here in order to get to stability and wish fulfillment and a deeper sense of belonging with the universe, even within your own life, because you've cleared out the skeletons of the closet. Not entirely, nobody can, but you accept the past. You don't change it, you accept it, so that within the depths of your subconscious, the conscious mind can fully come online in a way that allows you to be stable, because you stop doing that denial, recovery, grasping for control. You continue to open the door when the addiction and the pull and the allure of the devil offers to take you out of your pain and your suffering around the things that are crumbling within your life. This is a very deep kind of stern message, I think. But I guess I'm wanting to, not feeling like there's enough, feeling stuck. Okay, what's the ultimate advice? I do need to end this reading, but in order to work on breaking this cycle in a way that we haven't before, because like I said, the ride, if there's a water park ride, it's starting to go up. And I don't mean like things are looking up. I mean the centrifugal force that you would feel if you're going up. you're about to hit the drop. If you're on a roller coaster and it starts slowing down because it's going up a steep incline, you know that it's about to go down. What goes up must come down. So we're at that place where your body would be feeling the weight as you go up. And we feel like we're captive to that. 8 of Swords, 8 of Cups, not that we're entirely blind to it, but all of the energy, what is it? The advice, please, what is it? Okay, think about being in a space of having fulfillment. It seems like it's not enough in the way of advice. What I'm getting is that if somebody were to hear this, they'd be like, that's like roses and rainbows to if the advice to get through this very serious time of physical transformation and feeling like there's absolutely no wiggle room to make these changes. Like I'm seeing puzzle pieces that have a bunch of different combinations of how you could put them together. And you get to the end and the game master says, no, that's not the right combination. You have to take every single piece out in order to put them all back in. You can't just take out a few and switch them because the infinite combinations involve rearranging a lot of things. This is a big shift. Again, the 9 of Swords coming out. This is about, yes, I talked about it the other day as far as not worrying about the future, but right now you should be thinking about the future in a way that's like, there's a reason to be optimistic. This whole thing is happening for me, not to me. And what I need to do is let go of the past. Do you see this? 9 of Cups and the Sun instead of 9 of Swords and the Moon. This has to happen in order for this to happen. You have to go into the subconscious and think about the things that you have regretted and then set yourself free from that energy. Because there's a certain point where you're just hurting yourself, you're just harming yourself. To have an excuse for why you can't move on. She thinks she's stuck because she's made mistakes in the past and that this is where she's belonging. But nobody belongs in this state permanently. Nobody belongs in this state permanently. Nobody can be in this state permanently. But how you handle the fall from a tower is going to determine everything. Bottom of the deck, 5 of Wands, conflict, mental anguish, and 3 of Swords, heartbreak. So I haven't seen the 3 of Swords in a few readings. But I think the message is pretty clear here. There's some serious need to be able to use what I said is like, it feels like it's not enough to just kind of create a sense of hope somehow around trusting that what is leaving, even though it feels like being evicted or things being taken away, the longer you stay and watch that process crumble, the more painful it is. There is heartbreak, there is things that have gone wrong in the past, but a sense of forgiveness for the self around what hasn't worked out, and ultimately acceptance. Sometimes we can't, or we don't want to, or we don't think it would be possible to accept that certain things have happened. Not that it means that we can't have or do something different. We know that certain things happen, but we say, and because of that, this is how things are. Instead of, even though that happened, I can choose how things are going forward. So that's the most important thing to know, remembering that as the ride goes up, what I'm anticipating in the energy given all of this is that there's going to be some type of big drop. The other thing is that if you're on a water park ride and it goes up and it goes down, you don't worry, even though all of a sudden you're like screaming down the hill. That's the funnest part of the roller coaster. That's why people get tickets to them in the first place. But you're like screaming, it's scary. It's the adrenaline of wanting to move quickly through space and time. So but it can be horrifying. So anticipating that, again, with the tower, with the devil, with the cycles, things could either go quickly into an even more dire state of needing to correct things, or you could enjoy that ride because on the way up, you've been focusing on 9 of Pentacles. What would really make me happy? Do I need to, 5 of Swords, take time out from people and potentially be a little selfish and change the way I do things? You're examining the puzzle pieces that you're taking out, and you're reimagining the combinations that they could go back into the frame. I wonder what the astrology is today. I'll do another reading later. I'm feeling like there's a lot that wants to be said, and I don't have time to do it all now, so I'll come back to this. I will just say on a personal note, I love it when I get through a reading and I don't share anything personal about myself, because it means that I'm really in the flow of channel, and I'm not that I'm not channeling when I share about myself, but I had some really intense realizations yesterday and last night about what I need to change and what I've been avoiding. And it comes down to focusing on how you show up in the world, what you want, and if it's really aligned with, even if you've been doing things a certain way that have been yielding results for you, not trying to control the changes that the universe is asking you to make going forward. Sometimes we get into these pockets of comfort, and we're like, okay, great, I know that this is the type of stuff that I'm going to be doing when I do this. If you're manifesting, thinking like, and it will look like this because I'm doing this now and this is successful. By the time you get to a different point in your journey, maybe the things that were successful for you once are no longer successful. It doesn't mean that you're letting people down around you. Sometimes people in our lives don't know how to move alongside us when we are needing to move out of the same cycles that we've moved in with them for certain amounts of time. You're not letting anybody down when you do right by yourself, and it's not your job to explain that to anybody else. When people love you and support you, if you say that you're doing what you need to do for your highest good, then they should understand that. If they don't, then they're trying to control you. They're trying to gaslight and manipulate you. If they say that, well, what about this? You can't do this because of that. Nobody can tell you what's right for you. Nobody knows how you feel about your own journey. And I mean, a lot of these things, I was saying this a few weeks ago, it's like we decide we want to do something differently, and then the second we encounter any type of adversity or person who isn't familiar with that new way of being, they question it, not because they're saying that it's right or wrong. Maybe they are. Maybe they're saying like, that's not going to go very well for you. But even if they're not telling you their sense of judgment, the implicit fact, the very nature of the question, because we haven't strengthened our energy in this direction before, we're not resilient we can't trust it because we don't know, but that's exactly the leap of faith that's required. And if you turn around and go home every time somebody says, are you sure you want to go on a little adventure? Are you sure? If you say, actually, no, I guess I'm not, and then you go home every single time, you're never going to be able to go anywhere else. So you can't let other people give you permission or support the things that they can't see for you. They don't have access to seeing what you're being shown from the universe, because that's not their life. All right, I'm going to check back in on this later.